Now, I just came back. I had a wonderful workshop in Tuscany. I just came back literally just a couple of weeks ago. And of course, I took my favorite camera ever, the Canon EOS R6. I took just really one lens. I took a second lens. I didn't even use it until the very last day. So I was there 9 days. I took out the lens for one shot the last day. I used this one lens the whole time because I knew that I was going to be seeing scenes like this. But I didn't take that with the R6. That's with my iPhone. So I know what you're thinking. Well, Scott, you got that brand new iPhone Pro 14? Yes, I do. It says it right here. But I didn't have it on that trip. So you must have had the iPhone 13 Pro, very still good. Nope. I had the 2-year-old iPhone 12 Pro. Why? Because I'm one of the losers. I had this old phone from the turn of the century. But here's why. So my company luckily gets my phone, and so when it was time for the 14 to come out, I called my IT guy, and I said, hey, I want to get the new iPhone. He's like, you're not eligible for the new iPhone. Yeah, I said, I've had mine for 2 years. You're not eligible. And he goes, the wireless plan we have, you have to wait until October 22nd before you're eligible. Then we can order it and then get it. Now, I don't want to mention the name of the wireless company I have. It wouldn't be professional, but they do not get their plan. Their plan stinks, but again. All right, so I took this thing on an iPhone. Now, there are obvious advantages to using a phone. We know a bunch of them already. I don't want to harp on those. I want to spend 30 seconds on them. It's small, it's light. You already have it with you anyway, right? So that's obvious. This is the thing that's not so obvious. Of course, you know you can post-process, right on your phone, which is really cool. But you can go from this to this in one click. It does it in the phone, in camera. Now, it also has, here's another advantage. You already know this. This isn't what the class is about. When you want to show somebody one of your pictures, you got a way bigger screen. Think about the screen on your mirrorless or your DSLR, 3 inches. Tiny. It's like the smallest screen any of us own is on the back of our camera. But your phone is much better for sharing photos, right? You know that, and you know that you can do fully silent shooting. And I know some cameras, like I had a 5D Mark IV, and it kind of did a quieter mode, but it never did silent, so things like that. And that's nice, it has that. It's very easy for selfies. You ever try a selfie with your mirrorless? Hanging that big thing out there, and you're like, my arm's just not long enough, all right? You also have a super fast lens. Like the lens on the new one's like f1.5, so if you need to shoot in low light situations before it even has to do its low light magic, you can shoot at a really low f-stop. Time lapses are super simple because there's no math. There's zero math. You just hit the button and it does all the math, and when you're done, it compiles it into a video for you. It's one click. One click when you start it, one click when you end. No math, no using apps, no figuring anything out. Also, here's a really good one. I love to use my iPhone for behind-the-scenes shots of me using my real camera. So there's all these, but that's all the obvious stuff, right? But the iPhone has a secret weapon. That's one of these things that you already know, but when you really embrace this, it's magic. You can shoot with an iPhone in places where regular cameras are forbidden. So this is the interior of St. Paul's Cathedral in London. When you walk in the front doors, there's no camera, and it shows a picture of a DSLR. As you walk every few feet, there's another thing that says no cameras. If you pull out a DSLR or a mirrorless, there are snipers positioned up in the corners, and you're gone. They'll take you out in a split second. But you walk in, and there's 200 people with phones taking pictures, and nobody cares. The guards walk past, everybody, the whole place, everybody in there is taking pictures with their phone. So one of the greatest reasons to take an iPhone with you as your second camera for travel is it is your way to shoot anywhere, still take good pictures, and not have to worry about someone telling you to stop. So this is what you're going to see, and you're going to laugh and walk right by. You're just going to go, no film? No, I haven't had film in a few years. No photo? That's not, I'm just taking my phone. All right, but here's the thing. I want you to think about this differently because it can be your backup, right? Because I used to carry 2 DSLR bodies with me. Like I'd take 2 bodies, and I stopped doing that a few years ago because I know I already have a phone with me. I have my phone with me, so I got my second camera. But I want you to, this is what this whole class is going to be about. It's changing how you think about the camera in your phone, right? So the camera that's in your phone today is so much better than the cameras that were used just a few years ago. I remember when I bought a Nikon, what was it, 1DX? No, I'm sorry. Oh, what was the name of it was the noisiest camera in the history of man. If you went to 200 ISO, it looked like it was snowing in any scene. What was it, 1DX Mark II? No. Anyway, it was $6,000. And at the time, I was like, man, this is a kick-butt camera. It was 12 megapixels. This one's 48. And if I look at the pictures I took back then with it, and they all look so grainy and so, they don't, not the good grain, the bad grain. Because there's, I don't know if people realize this, like in Lightroom and Photoshop, there's like 3 different things to add grain, right? Grain can be wonderful, especially with black. If I do a black and white image, I add grain every single time, right? So grain can be wonderful, the good grain, not the bad grain that was coming from that. Anyway, it's going to hit me the name of that camera here in a minute. But anyway, long story short, is if you change about how you think about it, like my wife has a great saying, she goes, if you treat it like it matters, your pictures will change. Because what happens is, oh, it's not my real camera, so this picture's not going to be any good, so click. But if you change the way you think about it, it'll make a difference. But I'll tell you what, the day it changed for me, because I remember it very clearly, where I really started to realize I was being silly, not giving this my second camera status. I was in the middle of nowhere, China, leading a workshop. And this is a picture taken from the workshop. That's a phone picture right there. Taken back with the old phone, the iPhone 10. Anybody still have an iPhone 10? All right, you need to leave. No, it was a good, it was a great camera. But anyway, so we're sitting out there on this little piece of ground. Now, to get to this shot, we had to take a bus from our hotel, like a big bus, for 2 hours. Then we got in a little bus, and then we had to take the little bus, and then we did a hike, and then we got on a raft that was big enough for just me and the guy running the raft, and he had a lawnmower engine on it. And I thought, we're in the dark mist, and I thought, this is where I'm going to die. And so then you walk and you hike some more, and then we get to this spot. So we're out in the middle of nowhere, China. I couldn't find it for $1 million. It's just in the middle of somewhere. So we're out there shooting, and I've got I had a Canon R at the time. So I got my Canon set up, I got my tripod, I got all this stuff, and I'm out there shooting. And I was doing the workshop with Rick Salmon, who's a wonderful photographer and a great friend. And his wife Susan's there. Now his wife Susan is a very serious iPhoneographer. She teaches iPhoneography, she's really serious. So I'm sitting there shooting, and I'm looking, and she walks over and she goes, look. And she shows me her picture on her phone, and it's on Instagram. And I thought to myself, well, I want to put my picture on Instagram. What's it going to take? Well, I have to hike. I have to get back on the raft. I have to hike again. I have to get on a large bus. Then I have to transfer to the small bus. So 3 hours later, I'm back at my hotel. Then I'll take out my memory card. I put it in my card reader. I'll import all the photos. I'll go through and I find one I like. I post-process it, and ready? I have to upload it back to my phone so I can put it on the internet, so I can get it. Oh, come on. And that was an awakening for me. I was like, son of a gun. All right, so I'm already sitting there thinking, I could just take this picture and put it up right this minute and all. All right, so, uh-oh, there goes the Android guy. See, I know. Oh, it's going to get worse for you. You should go now. Okay. So then Susan, a few minutes later, walks over and says, look what I did. And I don't have her video, but I'll show you what she showed me. She said, look what I did. And I'm sitting there looking at my Canon R, and I'm looking at Susan. I pushed her right in the water. But now, when she showed me hers, you know, and I edited this, it shows regular speed, and then it stops and goes to slow. And that's what makes the one that's in your iPhone so neat. It starts at regular speed, and then it stops when the motion starts. And and I'm sitting out there in the middle of nowhere China going, I got to rethink this thing. Because I brought a big camera bag out there, I got all this extra gear and stuff, and then I have a third camera with me, right? And so this is how I changed my thought process. And if you do this, it will change how you take photos with your phone, all right? And so, because your phone today, now I'm not going to show you any pictures. I took my first pictures with this yesterday. So I don't have really pictures from the new 48 megapixel version. So all the pictures you're going to see are from my old phones. But these are all taken with iPhones. And you know how hard it is to shoot with an iPhone. What do? You click. And so I'm already carrying a camera that's capable of this. So what I want to do in the rest of this class is I want to give you 20 tips, ways to set up your camera, and I want to set you up for an absolute success when you shoot travel with your second. Because there's certain things that are actually better to shoot with your phone than it is with your DSLR or mirrorless. There are certain things that your mirrorless and your DSLR are better. I can't give up my mirrorless. I love it. My Canon EOS R was my favorite camera until 2 days ago when they announced the Mark II of the EOS R6. Now I have to pre-order that. So I really liked it until 2 days ago. But anyway, so it's not going to replace mine. But there are times where it's better, there's times where it's easier, and it's always my backup camera. And if my EOS R goes, or my R6 goes down, or more likely, I drop it. I've done that. I was changing lenses in Portugal and took my 7200 and went, whoops, crash, instant death, dead on arrival. I've dropped cameras, I've dropped everything. I drop my phone all the time. Apparently I have a dropping problem. But anyway, but I want to show you, we're going to go through 20 things real quickly in the time that we have, and I want to set you up to where you'll start making travel photos, thinking differently about it, and understanding the power that it has. The first thing I want to do is set you up for shooting in RAW. So, and I'm going to give you 2 different scenarios for this. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is go to your settings, and you're going to scroll down to camera, click on it. You're going to scroll over here to formats up at the top, and you're going to turn on Apple Pro RAW. Now, you have 2 choices. If you click on Pro RAW resolution, you can shoot 12 megapixel. If you have the brand new iPhone 14 Pro or the Pro Max, you can shoot at 48 megapixel. Now, that's only step 1, but you only have to do this one time. So now you've told the camera there'll be times I want to shoot in RAW. But when you actually want to shoot in RAW, you have to go up top, and it will say no RAW by default. So your RAW's off. Even though you went and turned it on in the presets, it's off. And you'll see why it's off in a second. And then you just tap on it, and now you're shooting RAW. Now, why is it off by default, and why even though you went and turned it on in the settings? Here's why. Your regular 12 megapixel file is 25 megabytes. Your 48 ones are 75 apiece. If they left it on all the time, you'd be shooting in RAW like pictures of your foot and your kid and your cat, and like, I turn on RAW when it matters. When I'm like, ooh, this is something good, that's when I tap it. And I'll leave it on for 3 or 4 shots and then turn it back off because I don't want to fill up my phone. Now, what if you have an older phone that won't shoot in RAW natively? It doesn't matter if you have an iPhone 6, you can shoot in RAW today because Lightroom has its own camera built into it that shoots in RAW. All you do is you see at the very top where it says DNG, just tap on that. If it says JPEG, if it says JPG, you're shooting in JPEG. If you tap it, DNG is RAW. It's Adobe's RAW format. So you're actually shooting in RAW if you tap that. All right, so that's number 1. Let's get a set of shooting in RAW. Whether you have an older camera or a newer camera, everybody can shoot in RAW. Next, exposure compensation. It is so great on the iPhone, so easy. So here's all you do. You know how you tap on the screen to focus on something? If you leave your finger there and you drag up, it brightens the scene. If you drag down, it darkens it. That's it. Tap to focus and then just drag. Now, when you tap and start to drag, you'll see a little sun show up, and a little line. It's like a little slider. And if you want to make it brighter, you drag up, drag down. Here's what it looks like. Take a look. Just tap. See how it's just tap on the screen and drag it up or drag it down. That's it. It's the easiest exposure you can imagine. All right? Number 3, this is a great trick. My wife taught me this one because she's a very avid iPhone photographer. She does articles for international magazines on iPhone photography. She's really got a great eye, and I've bought her numerous DSLRs, and she's just like, I just love my phone. She goes, I know this is great. I know it works really well. I understand it. No. But here's the thing. Her trick is this, and it's a good one. It's how to shoot wider. So if you ever notice when you take a picture on the iPhone, that's the size. And you're like, why isn't it wider? Well, you can actually trick it and make it wider. All you have to do, it's a weird trick, but it works great. Look how much wider you can make it. You can go from regular screen to widescreen. You shoot your stills in video mode. So all you do is start shooting a video. Just switch to video and hit go. And what happens is, look right above the record button. A shutter button shows up right there. And when you click it, it shoots almost the whole full screen in one shot. Which that's pretty kick butt that you can do that. But it also makes you wonder, why can't we just do that all the time? Apple. Okay. Number 4, David talked about this. So you can do live exposure, long exposures, right in your camera. It works stunningly well. I was shocked the first time I saw it. So here's how it works. All you have to do is one simple thing. You have to, it's 2 steps. Step 1 is you have to make sure you're in live photo mode. This is the default. And you know if you're in this mode, if you look in the corner, you see the little circle with the multiple circles around it, and it will say the word live in front of it. So when you go to shoot, when you look at your camera, you should see the little circles and the word live. So as long as it says that, so this is not a RAW trick. You can't do this with RAW, you have to do it with JPEG. All right? Then all you're going to do is change one thing, but it's after the shot. Take the shot, and you're done with the shot. Open the Photos app or just tap on it to edit it, and then here's what you do. You're going to, I took these 2 days ago. Here we go. All right, look at this water. Boo, frozen water. Here's what you do. You're in the Photos app. See where it says live up top left corner? Just click on it. Look what it says. Long exposure. Just tap on long exposure, wait a couple of seconds, look. Is that crazy? So here's what it does. If you have an older iPhone and you know who you are, it takes 15 photos, averages them together, and that's what creates the long exposure. If you have the new iPhone 14 Pro, I think it takes 36 pictures and puts them together automatically in 2 seconds and renders out the long exposure. Now, that's done to every picture you take with live photo. Behind the scenes, when you tap that button, that word that says long exposure, boom, it builds it. It's 2 seconds and it's done. Now, if you don't want to do that, here's the final picture, all right? So if you don't want to do that, there is an app that is amazing. It's called Even Longer. It's $3.99 on the App Store. You can do as long a one as you want. You want to do 20 seconds? You want to do a real long exposure, 3 minutes, 5 minutes? Whatever you want to do. It's amazing. You just type in the number you want, and it will leave your shutter open that long. It has its own camera. Of course, it uses the lenses that's, in Apple's, but it uses its own camera app, and it's brilliant. And that's it. Look, this is a 5-minute exposure taken with your iPhone. It was actually my buddy Eric Kuna took that. I was standing right beside him with my mirrorless. He could show me his. He goes, hey, look. And I'm like, I know. Get in the bus. Go back to the hotel, card reader, I get it. Okay, now, should you handhold a 5-minute exposure? How about no? No, you need to shoot on a tripod. All right, now I have a tripod with me right now. Hang on. It's in my wallet. Oh, there it is. This is a little miracle. It's called the Pocket Tripod Pro. It literally fits in your wallet. It is the size of a credit card. And this is what it looks like up close. I made a stunning video for you for the 2 clicks it takes to set it up and start using it as a tripod anywhere you are. Watch. You take it, you turn it, one turn, and you pop up the legs. That's it. Tripod. And you put your phone in it. That's it. And it tilts. And it's incredibly well made, and it's incredibly expensive. It's like 30 bucks. Now, this seems like a lot, doesn't it? Like 30 bucks for this little thing. Now, I just want you to just pause and think what your carbon fiber tripod costs that you carry around with you. This could stay in your pocket. I actually keep mine in my car. But it fits in your wallet, and you can just pull it out. All right, this is what it looks like. Come on, it's just, and it's so well made. It's so sturdy, and it weighs nothing. I don't think it weighs an ounce. It probably weighs a half an ounce, all right? Now, if you want to get really serious about this and move to the next level, because this is great for putting on a table or laying on something, but what if you're out there shooting, you're out like I was in Tuscany. In that case, there is a wonderful mount you can get from it's that company. The company that makes the phone tripod mount with the Arca Swiss plate. It's designed to go onto your regular tripod and ball head. Slides right onto your Arca Swiss mount, locks on there. It's so well made. It is also like 30 bucks. But you feel like it's worth it for this one. I don't know why. But anyway, it attaches to what you've already got. So if you're like, hey, I am going to use this as my second camera, and it went down, that's a great thing to have in your bag. All right, what's the next one? This is something that will also change how you feel about shooting with your phone as your second camera. There is another shutter button. You do not have to press the one that is on your screen, because if you just use the volume up, and either button shoots the shot. It's so much better to do it that way, because when you take your finger off to shoot, you're moving your phone. Now your phone's and it's a camera. You got to hold it still like anything else, right? So this way, you're holding it with both hands, and you do it for a day. You'll never go back to tapping the screen again. And it's either volume button will work. All right. Next, this is just a setting that makes things easier and nicer, but it also unlocks another feature that I'm going to show you later in this presentation. So this is why I would turn it on. There is a shooting grid that comes with it. And here's how you see. It's like, see on the left, there's no shooting grid. And on the right, there's a rule of thirds grid, right? Here's how you turn that on. You go to the camera setting, go to your settings app, go to your camera preferences. There they are, there they are. All right? And go over there, see where it says composition down the bottom? Just turn on grid. And that's it. It's this little button right there. And now you'll have that same little grid popping up right where you are. All right, this next one is incredibly handy. It's how not to miss the shot. When I'm walking around a city, it's the worst thing in the world to have to turn on your camera and wake it up or whatever. You know what's worse than that? Turning on your iPhone, waiting for it to do facial recognition, or typing in your password. That's why this tip is so awesome. So when your phone is off and it's asleep, here's what you're going to do. Ready? You're not going to wake it up. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to put in your password. You are just simply going to tap the screen once and swipe left. Take a look. And the camera's live. No logging in, none of that stuff. It's the fastest way. So your camera's off. It's off and it's in your pocket. You just pick up your phone, you tap the screen once, and swipe to the left. Boom, instant live camera. That's the fastest way to get to your camera, and you won't miss the shot. So again, don't wake it up, no password, none of that stuff. Tap and swipe left. Boom, it's ready. All right, now, if that sounds good, you may like this next one even better. This one's the back tap. This one allows you to tap the Apple logo, and your camera comes up anytime. 2 taps on your logo, and it comes up. Here's how I set it up. So you're just going to double tap the logo. You go and you set this up in the settings. All right, step 1 is go to the settings and go to accessibility. All right. Step 2 is you're going to tap on touch. All right? And then when you get to touch, step 3 is you're going to choose back tap. Now, back tap will be off by default. So it's just going to say off. you're going to switch it to camera. And then, from then on, when you double tap with you're already holding your camera, right? Because you're walking down the street, and you just boom, boom, and your camera's live immediately. It's incredibly fast. So that is the back tap. Double tap that thing, and your camera goes live. All right, next, this is one of the things that I think that your camera does better than, your phone does better than your DSLR or mirrorless, and that is shooting panoramas. It is so easy and fast to shoot a pano because it is going to stitch it and crop it and do everything for you, and you're going to see it right there on the spot. It's just turn it on and hit stop. That's it. It's not going to ask you any questions. You're just not going to say, hey, I took 7 images. Put them together later on your computer when you get back. It does it for you. It is literally one tap. Hey, look, it's Venice. That's not actually Venice. You know what that is? That's Tokyo Disneyland. So I take a lot of panos just because it's so easy. It's just literally, you click and go. Here's what it looks like if you've never taken one. You switch to pano, and all you do is just slowly go to the left, and I'll tell you about the slowly part in just a second. And that's it. I have 2 tips for you for taking panos. And the 2 tips are this. Number 1, you know it tells you to slow down? Just ignore that. Tip number 2, if you want a successful pano, here's the secret, honestly. Don't go too far. Like, you want to take a pano that goes like this. Whee! The whole world all the way from the end to end. What happens is you wind up looking on your phone, and you have a pano this tiny. And you go and put it on Instagram, it's this tiny. So, like, I try to take panos that are kind of this wide. So my camera would take normally this. And I want to go this. I don't go that. Because it will wind up being so small that you won't get to enjoy it, and it'll even look small on your phone. If it looks small on your phone, it's really going to be small. All right, tip number 11. For travel, this is a killer one, because I love to use my phone for scouting. So this is a tip that I give people when I'm talking about just travel photography. In fact, I gave this tip when I did the optic presentation in New York, which was when I go to a town, the first thing I do, if I've never been to this town before, is I take that 2-hour bus tour. And you can get the hop on or hop off, but I never hop off. So why do I take this 2-hour tour first? Because I already have a shot list when I show up into town, right? If I go to Rome, I'm like, all right, I want to shoot the Colosseum, and I'll have my list of shots. So when do I want to shoot the Colosseum? At dawn, right? I want to get up early. I want to be right there in the perfect position. But when you take the 2-hour bus tour, you'll find out, like I did, that it's covered in scaffolding. So I can mark that off for tomorrow. We're not doing that. And if I go to Paris, like, oh, they're doing construction right where I want to shoot. See, everything everywhere is being renovated, which is misery. So if you do that 2-hour tour, you know right off the bat exactly where not to go the next day, all right? And this is what it looks like. You driving around. Now, here's what's great, but that's just part of the bigger tip. But the secret is this. When you do this 2-hour bus tour, right, you're going to see places that weren't on your list. You'll see some little alley, and there's a beautiful fountain down there, and it wasn't on anything that you've looked at on the web. You didn't know it was there. So now you found this great location. It's really cool, and you want to go back there. How are you going to find this alley on a side street in the middle of Barcelona? Because here's what you're going to do. When you take a picture with your phone, it embeds the GPS location of where you were when you took it. It automatically embeds the GPS. Well, that's great if you have like a GPS unit in your car or something. Oh no, here's what's better. When you take that photo into Lightroom, for example, Lightroom Classic, take a look. It has that GPS. So look, I'm in Lightroom Classic. I'm in the library module. Scroll down to the metadata panel, and there's all the information in your camera embedded and all that stuff. Yep, there it is. Oh, taken with an iPhone. And then right beside, there's the GPS data. Look at the little arrow to the right of it. See that arrow? When you click that arrow, it takes you to a satellite image of where you were standing, where you took the photo. And look, there's the photo. Every time you shoot with an iPhone, Lightroom automatically takes that photo and maps it to a world map. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to turn it on. It's done it automatically. So now you can know exactly where those are. It's already organizing your images behind the scenes, which is pretty amazing. So that's why I love it, because I'll be able to find out by looking at literally inside of Lightroom. Or inside of Apple's own Photo app will also show you the exact same thing. You don't have to bring it into Lightroom. It will show you a satellite image of where you were standing. You can look at it on a map and see exactly which corner, which place, or which location to get back to, because it's based on that. All right, another setting for you that you might love. You're either going to love this or hate it. And I'm going to show you it, and you can decide. You can actually view outside the frame. So when you go and pull up the iPhone's camera, this is what it looks like. See the big black bars on either side? You can go and turn on a setting. Wait, you don't see the black bars. There they are. See the big black bars on either side? Your photo's in the middle. You can go turn on a setting that will do this. It lets you see through the black bars. So you can see. Now, here's Apple says, we do this because you might see that there's things outside the frame that you want to compose. You're like, oh, I didn't realize there's a lamp over there, so I'm going to move over and include that in my shot. Here's the problem, and so try this and see what you think. I turned it on for a while, and I wound up turning it back off. I have people that swear by it and love it, and they say, I think it helps me compositionally. But what it does for me is, I subconsciously think that stuff is in my frame. Like I kind of think I got it, and then I get back and go, wait a minute, I knew I had, oh no, it wasn't really in my frame. Because you're holding the phone up and you see it. And you're like, yeah, that's in my frame. No, it's not. All right, so how about this one? Here's how you turn this feature on just in case. You're going to scroll over to the camera settings, of course. You're going to scroll to view outside the frame and turn it on at the very bottom. It's right here. I say it's here, but then it doesn't appear. There, view outside the frame. Just try it. See what you think. You may, like some of my friends, have fallen in love with it, can't live without it, or you may think it's trash. All right, this next one is so good, and it's about getting super low. And it is an iPhone feature that's pretty clever. So when you take your phone and you want to shoot really, really low, and you love that low perspective, you can turn your phone upside down, but it will automatically shoot the image right side up. Now, so what am I looking for when I turn it upside down? Just give me the smallest, tiniest puddle of water. I just need this much water. Look how little water. You see that little tiny bit of water? That's all I need. It flips the image over for you automatically. So literally, my lens is an inch above that tiny little puddle. But if there's a little puddle, it's there. All right, do you remember me telling you a few minutes ago that that I have a technique for you for that if you turn on the grid, it comes in handy later. And this is what it is. It's for shooting food. I always tell people why it's so important to photograph the food when we travel. So number one is, if you talk to people about travel and say, what is it you love about travel? They go, oh, I love seeing other cultures. I love seeing the architecture. I love trying the food in different places. So when I'm teaching a travel photography workshop, I'm always telling my students and teaching my students how to photograph food, because it's really important. Now, the reason I came up with this is, when I first started teaching travel workshops, I wanted to find out, what is it that makes a travel photography magazine spread so awesome? Like, you look at these, you open up Condé Nast Traveler or National Geographic Traveler or any one of these, and you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to go there. So I started to do research and write down, like, I made a shot list of what are the things that you see in all these different magazines from around the world. And one of the things they always feature is food. Always. Whatever it is, they're always, because it's such an, now, they may feature wine as well, liquor, heroin, different things. Depends on the place. But they're always showing the food, right? And one of the shots that I love is when, like, when the waiter or the waitress is putting down the food. You get a little of their arms in there. I love that shot. And I'll even ask my server, hey, when you bring the food, can I take a picture of you putting it down? And they work for tips. They're like, absolutely. How many times do you want me to do it? Anyway, so the trick I want to give you is for shooting food. And there's another tip in here that will also relate to shooting food. But there's a special feature inside the iPhone for shooting food. But it's hidden, and you only get to it if you turn on the grid. So one of the most popular food shots is, of course, the straight down food shot. But if you don't nail the straight down part, it looks like the weird perspective food shot. So like being able to nail that shot is important. So here's the trick on how to nail it. When you go to shoot, when you have the grid turned on, you'll notice that when you put your camera horizontally like this, you'll see a crosshair. One's white and a second one that's yellow. When you line them up, the camera's perfectly flat. And it's so easy to do. Here, watch, this is what it looks like. This is not going to be a beautiful video, but you get the idea. Okay, step one, you got to make sure the grid's on. So go turn your grid on. It only works if the grid feature's turned on. All right, now, let's get some food. See the two crosshairs? You just, when they line up, it's a really bad video. There you go. When they turn solid color, you are perfectly flat. Again, only happens if the grid is turned on, so make sure you have your grid on. All right. The next one. Only use your camera's optical lenses. So what does that mean? You know how you see these numbers on your phone? So this is what's on my phone, my new one here. I don't know if I mentioned, did I get the new iPhone 14 Pro? Yeah, just got it, brand new. Yeah, 2 days old. Okay, anyway. If you have this, you have 4 buttons, and that just means you're 25% cooler than the people with 3 buttons. Anyway, so these are optical lenses. So if you choose 0.5, 1, 2, or 3, you're going to have nice, crisp, clear pictures. If you have an iPhone 11 or a 12 or a 13 Pro, you'll have 3. You'll still have the ultra-wide, which is amazing. You know, the ultra-wide on an iPhone is 13 millimeters. That's wide, man. All right? Then you got 1X and 2X. Those are the optical. These are the safe ones. If you have an iPhone 10 or 11 or 13, it's time for a new phone. You've got 1X and 2X. You're living in a world of pain. I'm not sure if your phone even makes calls anymore. Anyway, but here's the thing you never want to do. Don't ever, while the camera app is open, don't ever pinch to zoom. When you pinch to zoom, you're no longer using one of those optical lenses. It's now creating pixels that aren't actually there. So, and I took a picture to see, is it really going to be that bad? Yep. It looks like you painted it. Which if you're looking for the painterly effect, well, it's one zoom away. But that's probably not what you're looking for. It just literally falls apart because it's making up pixels that aren't there. So always use the optical ones. I guess the theme I'm trying to say here is don't pinch. Okay, number 16, this is a wild one. This is wild, and it's so cool when you're doing things like shooting food or you want to shoot on the sly. You're doing street photography. You don't really want anyone to know what you're doing, right? You use a little iPod Pocket Pro and aim it at whatever you want, the servers, people at other tables, someone's hotel room, whatever you think is appropriate. All right, and then what you're going to do is you're not going to touch the phone. You're not going to use the self-timer. You're going to shoot from your Apple Watch. There is actually an app in your Apple Watch. Scroll down to Camera. Remote, there it is, Camera Remote. You tap on it, and it will show you a picture of what it's seeing. And then you can just tap the shutter button or tap a delay. You can even change the zoom and stuff. You tap and watch, it fires the phone. Is that crazy? Well, you got to buy an Apple Watch. That's the unfortunate part. But you might already have one. All right. So the other thing that the phone is really great about that people don't realize is that all of the lenses have a super close-up macro capability built in. You can get about an inch from anything, and it will still zoom in. So you can just say, all right, I want to zoom in. So here's this plate of food. Now, the background is blurry because I'm using portrait mode. So portrait mode on the iPhone actually makes the background out of focus. It literally puts it out of focus like you're at f2.8 or f1.8 or 1.7, whatever it takes. Nobody get that? No one saw that movie? Doggone it. Okay, anyway, it was an old movie. But so you look at, you focus on this, it automatically puts the background. It's great for portraits, but I think of it also for just shooting objects, for shooting anything. It just makes your image stand out. But if you want to get really close, you can get up in on that food or anything else. It's not just food. It will take all kinds of different stuff. All right. This next one's going to seem really obvious, but when I tell people this and they do it, I always get an email back saying, oh my gosh, my phone is shooting sharper shots than it's ever taken. So it is the secret to taking really sharp shots. Just clean your lens. Think about it. You're throwing it in your purse, you're throwing it in your pocket, you're throwing it in your car, in the cup holders, and gosh knows where. When was the last time you thought to clean the lens on your phone? How many years has it been since you... Yeah, and you know what? I was talking to a buddy about like, yeah, I don't know about this phone, my old phone, you know, and he's like, when was the last time you cleaned your lens? I'm like, oh, I clean it pretty regularly. Really? When was the last time? May? I got out and cleaned it. It was like I bought a new phone. It was terrible. All right, this is the home of junk and gunk. And we would never think of this with our mirrorless or our DSLR. We would never think of it. We're very, fastidious, I guess it is the word I'm looking for, about keeping our lenses clean. We're cleaning them all the time. But our phone, we never think of it. It's a camera. We just never clean it. Clean it, and all of a sudden, now, where do you get a cleaning cloth? For $4.99, get the Sensei microfiber lens cleaning cloth. And this is, look, it's the #1 seller at B&H. Here's the interesting thing. It doesn't just work on phones. You're getting double duty out of this. It cleans your phone's screen and the camera and your lenses. It's really, it's for lenses, but it'll clean anything. It'll clean your glasses. And I keep one with me all the time. In fact, I've got a cleaning cloth in my pocket because I always keep one with me. This is not that one. This is one that came with my phone. Did I mention I got a new phone? I don't know if I said. Anyway, all right. So it seems like a silly one, but it's honestly a very important one. All right. Number 19, shooting in burst mode. So there is a burst mode that you don't even have to do anything to turn it on. It's ready to shoot multiple pictures. So this morning we're out on the whale watch, and we were shooting, and I was in the good boat. Anyway, there were two boats, so, the one with the really good shooters. There's another boat as well. Anyway, I'm just kidding. For you folks watching at home, I'm not kidding. Okay. All right, so if you press and hold the volume up button, it'll shoot a burst. And it'll just keep shooting bursts. It'll go click, 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 and it'll shoot as many shots as you want to shoot. Now, how do you turn this on? You have to go turn it on. You have to go into the settings to the camera app, you know the routine, and go turn on the switch for use volume up. So it's not the volume down. So volume up or down will take the picture, click, click. But now when you turn this on, you hold volume up and it'll shoot a burst. You know what's neat? If while you're doing it, because you can either hold the button on the phone or you can hold the top one, if you drag the shutter to the left, it'll tell you how many shots you've just taken. So you can see them, and it goes fast. It is shooting like, 10 frames, 12 frames a second. You start moving, it's like stop. It takes a lot of photos. That's why you want to be careful about putting RAW on all the time. You'll shoot a gig of photos in 6 seconds. All right, we're down to the last tip of the day. Now, this tip is called how to shoot in manual mode. Because one of the things people will tell me is, well, I really can't use a camera phone. I shoot in manual, and it's my whole life. My life is based around shooting in manual, and I can't do it on a phone. But you actually can. All you have to do is use Lightroom's camera. So Lightroom has a Pro mode. It's set to automatic by default. You can just click on Pro and look. There's the exposure, got a slider for it, shutter speed, ISO, you can set your white balance manually, you can do the whole 9 yards and set all of your settings manually just by switching from automatic to Pro mode, and as soon as you do, you have all of those settings. All right, that is the actual 20 tips. Now, if you're like thinking to yourself, Scott, there's got to be more than 20 tips. By gosh, there's just a ton of them. And I shoved them in this book. You knew this was you knew I was going to mention it at the very end, for goodness sake. So I have this book called the iPhone Photography Book, and this is what I did in the book. I took regular photography principles, like the regular stuff that we do for portraits and for landscapes and travel and all, and I said, what if we pretended that It was just a camera, and we never talked about what kind of camera it was, and we just did photos with it, and this is our camera. So that's what the whole book is about. But I'm so thrilled that you came to a class on using your iPhone. This crowd, right, coming to a class, my hat's off to you. Thanks very much, everybody.